This is Rita Carr, Chair of the Nantucket Historical Commission, calling to order the May 16th, 2025 meeting of the Nantucket Historical Commission to order at 10:01 a.m. This meeting is being recorded and is being conducted in a hybrid fashion. So please take care to not share your screen or anything will be captured by the recording. So I will start with a roll call to confirm our quorum. So we have on Zoom, George Butterworth. Can you hear me?
Here.
Great. Abby DiMolina.
I'm here.
And in the room, Angus McLeod.
Morning.
Great. And then we have Holly Backus here as our preservation planner staff. We're joined by Gail Walker of Nantucket Lights and two members of Spring City Electric. Could you confirm your names just for the record?
Yes, I'm Jane Slade.
And I'm Nick Burke with Spring City.
Great. And then looks like Drew Patno just logged on as well. Okay, so first on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, great. Seeing none, we'll move on to the staff update. Holly?
Good morning, everybody. One thing I did want to mention to everybody is that today is the deadline for applications before the town administration. As you all know, we don't have Diane, unfortunately, so her position is available. And I believe the deadline is actually at noon today, so hopefully others have put their applications in. And I will touch base about our historic resource surveys later on the agenda.
Great. Thank you, Holly. Okay, so then next that brings us to the downtown street lighting fixtures compliance with 2023 annual town meeting article 76. And we have a presentation from Spring City Electric. So please, you guys, you can take it away.
Great, thank you so much. It's great to be here with all of you. We've been in touch with Gail Walker about potentially helping you with making your street lighting dark sky. I'm Jane Slade of Spec Lines and we represent Spring City. So next slide, please. So this is light pollution map.info, and you can actually hit the next slide, it won't change it. It's just the reference. And advance to the next slide, please. This is Nantucket. You'll see these are satellite captures of the light pollution that is coming from the island. If you could go back one slide, actually. What I've always loved about Nantucket's story is that you have a head start, not just geographically, but also on the island. You have an opportunity to actually be a leader in the dark sky movement. And people come to me a lot and they want to find out how they can be more dark sky. And I often say, do not look to your neighbor, be the leader, because you can see from this map that we need leaders in the dark sky movement. And so we're very excited that Nantucket passed a bylaw. Thank you to Gail Walker for all the work that she did to do that. And so I really think you have a unique opportunity to be a leader in New England to really reclaim the stars. Next slide. And you can just move through this one. There you go. And so the way that you make a dark sky fixture is essentially you want to make the light, the light that comes from the light engine parallel to the ground. So anytime you add glass panes back, that light acts as a wave and goes out and up. So that means that unfortunately historical fixtures really do need to remove the glass that comes with dark sky fixtures so that we can make the fixtures dark sky. So other factors include color temperature. I know that you're considering that amber 2200K. Also reducing the intensity of the light and controlling it so that you have periods of darkness. So those are your basic dark sky techniques. Next slide, please. Actually, there's a lot of animations, so just probably go really quick.
Okay.
I can't go quick enough. And you'll see the bug rating. That is how we qualify fixtures for their uplate. The Nantucket bylaw is 101. So that's how we are trying to make lighting installations that meet those requirements. I would keep going through, yeah. Keep going.
Yeah.
So here's your current street lighting in Nantucket. And you can see that that glass lighting, even the camera is picking up all of the uplight and the radial distribution of light. And that can really be turned around with modern lighting technology. Next slide, please. This is some Spring City literature. We actually worked with Gail to help make this super communicative. And essentially you'll see that the dark sky fixture, the light is in the top, in the hat. And then there's no glass on the side so that the light can just be pointed downward. Spring City has done an amazing job developing dark sky lighting from scratch. So this is a lot of times what we'll see in lighting is they'll take the old form factor and just sort of ram in new technology, and that doesn't make for great lighting. So these fixtures have really been engineered from the start to be dark sky fixtures.
And from a, from a design standpoint, one of the major advantages to how we do our LED system is that one of the main components for managing LEDs and their long-term longevity is heat dissipation and management of that heat off of the LED board. So in all of our dark sky fixtures that are post-op versions, all of our LED boards are mounted to the roof of the fixture, allowing the roof to dissipate the heat to the outside air, managing the longevity of the fixtures so that if you are to, replace them, that you're not having to do so again for a very long time.
Next slide, please. These are some whole renderings that we've done to show. So much of lighting is not just the lighting that's coming out, and of course you want that to perform how you want, especially with regard to dark sky, but a lot of it, and probably a lot of why we're here today, is to talk about how we can maintain the historical character of the fixtures. So we provide these types of drawings to many different projects that we work on to make sure that the sculpture of the pole is really meeting the needs of the end users. And so much of it is very, very customizable. A lot of these renderings we did for some case studies that are actually now installed on Nantucket, which I will show you. Next slide, please. So here are the case studies already on Nantucket. So this is the pilot study that's on Main Street in front of Ralph Lauren. You'll see, as I've been saying, there's no glass in the fixture. The light is coming from the top of the fixture and is parallel to the earth. And that really allows the light to go right where you want it. Next slide, please. There you have the fixture right in front of Ralph Lauren. Next slide, please. This is in Sconset, so this is a different form. This is the Clearwater fixture. And so we've removed the panes out of the four sides. And you'll see the fixture is a 2200K, which is that warm amber color. So these fixtures these forms are smattered around the streetlights in Nantucket. This is another type of fixture. This is the Jefferson from Spring City, and this is at the Maple Lane HOA. So we actually encourage anyone who's interested in seeing these fixtures illuminated at night to check them out. It's a very beautiful installation. So you can really see how the dark sky fixtures perform and the color temperatures that they're providing. Next slide, please. So a lot of the comments that we got from Nantucket's community and all of you was that the fixture, the dark sky version, seemed to be kind of missing something where the glass panes were. And so we wanted to help you kind of fill that hole and honor what you feel you need for the historical character. So these are just some options of what you could put here. This is a hurricane lamp. Abby, I'm gonna have you advance for the first three and then we can jump around and maybe have a discussion here. So this is a gas mantle option, and then the next one is a finial option. Now, each of them present different pros and cons. Maybe the finial is the least historical, and if you back up, the mantle is a faux gas mantle. And then the previous one is the hurricane lamp, which may be illuminated by the light above, but do we want to kind of open this up for discussion right now?
Yeah, I also want to add a couple more comments in too. So I mean, we did a lot of walking through the downtown area yesterday on Main Street and obviously got to take a look at, the different lights that are in the downtown area on Main Street, obviously all of which mimic this or are this Grosse Pointe style. And then on some of the side streets where you get into a lot of the square fixtures, which would be your more of the clear water that Jane had shown in Wisconsin. And, here at Spring City, we strive on our customization, and that could be as simple as adding one small component or adding or creating a custom fixture completely from the ground up. And so, on Main Street, there was fixtures that had the chimney, there was fixtures that had the gas mantle, and there was fixtures that had smaller little components that looked kind of similar to the finial style. And, ultimately, we want to be here as a resource, but be able to supply different options that would fit the bill for everybody involved. And so these are ultimately just options that we thought would be good to show based on what is out there. But this isn't the final limitation of what we can do. And we're happy to supply other options as well. Shall anybody on the committee want to see them?
Are there any questions about these options or comments, or people want to weigh in with opinions?
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Or express an opinion? I agree that the light on Main Street, the demo, looks like there's nothing there. And I think the hurricane option looks like it really would add some body and appearance to the lamp, or the other one, I guess, the fake gas fixture thing. But the finial looks almost like there's nothing there. And I think having something for people to see really adds the historic appearance.
Abby, if you wouldn't mind advancing past these three.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was gonna add, sorry, Jane, I was gonna add, I know I mentioned this yesterday. I think one of my concerns with the glass or like whatever's in there is that it just requires more upkeep, and it can degrade quickly, and so it won't look as nice. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily opposed to it. I think it's just something for us to keep in mind that when replacing these, if we don't have that piece, it just will be one less thing that we'll have to replace over time. So just a thought.
I can go backwards just. Yes, the hurricane lamp will, what we call that is luminaire dirt depreciation. Anytime you have glass, it does get dirty. So that is something that we discussed with Angus yesterday, that that is something that could be replaced or cleaned over time. So it doesn't happen right away. So you could do that in a periodic maintenance. In general, LEDs don't really require much maintenance. So there are pros and cons to adding it, but one pro is that the light source above would create a glow of the hurricane just passively. So and the downside, as Abby is saying, is that that the fixture would be maybe potentially have to be maintained with dirt. So
Yeah. Sorry, Jane. And this was part of our discussions yesterday with Angus as well. Based on the shape and the contour of the chimney, I think we could all probably go back and forth between pros and cons of the chimney versus the gas mantle appearance, as there are currently both on Main Street currently. But the shape and contour of the chimney is going to allow that light that LED light from above to illuminate it and make it look like it has a glow, like there is a lamp in it, as it was many years ago. our fear regarding the mantle is that because of the bell shape at the top, is that it's ultimately there might be a shadow that's kind of cast over it. And because those mantles aren't illuminated, it might look like it was potentially, something that was just kind of put in there to fill the space and wasn't done with a purpose. And it might appear that the chimney could be a better option, but both are good options as well. And that was part of our discussions yesterday, Angus. Now, of course, obviously, when you're introducing these components, especially in a dark sky fixture, they are open to the air. And so their long-term is, of course, going to be more maintenance on those components without a lens compared to having the globe. But I think that those are obviously good options for, everybody to review.
One thing we also discussed is potentially supplying a sample mantle and a sample hurricane lamp that could either be installed across two samples so that you could compare them side by side. Or if you wanted to just use the one sample you already have, you could potentially have a period of time to get public feedback on which one was preferred. I will also say that when you look at the street lighting throughout Nantucket, you have both of these throughout. So it's not like any one is more or less historic than the other. Any final comments? We can come back to these drawings, but I'm going to move on in the presentation. One thing that I wanted to share is that when you upgrade your lighting to LED and to new fixtures, you also have the ability to control your fixtures. This is absolutely massive. I like to say that installing lighting without controls is like buying a laptop without Wi-Fi. Now we have the ability to actually control down to a single fixture. This can be enormously helpful when you have that lone neighbor that's complaining. The dashboard that is associated with that controls node there, which is Ubiquia, is extremely user-friendly. You can have admin controls. The pilot study is being controlled. And so right now, when we had first installed it, it was actually too bright. So we knocked it down to 12 watts. We can do that in real time. And so what this opens up is the ability to, next slide, please. Thank you, Holly. It's funny because as important as controls are, because there's no better savings than when a fixture is off. And I'll just tell you that my why has always been wildlife. There is a heartbreaking environmental disaster that is happening as a result of light pollution. 49% of all bird species in the entire world are in decline. And that's because we are blanching their map of the stars. So what's funny is that in the modern age and ease of LEDs, we just leave lights on all the time. And so it's actually rare to find a quote unquote adaptive lighting study where we adapt the lighting levels as per the human use. Cambridge, Mass actually does this. So at 10 p.m., their lights go down by 30% in intensity. And then at midnight, I think it's another 20% for a total of 50%. It's an innovation to turn lights down or off in this period of time on Earth. And with controls, we can actually now reclaim much of the ecological darkness that is needed on the planet. If you would like, I'd be happy to make sure the board has this case study available. But if you can advance 2 slides, please.
That Harvard Square.
That is Harvard Square. Yep.
And just Madam Chair, through you, I think it's important to note that Cambridge is a historic district, like we are. So, I mean, I think that's helpful to be able to, and in Massachusetts, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So with controls, what you can actually do is create zones. So perhaps Main Street could be a zone. And I know that you're considering potentially a historic district where glass globes would be considered only on that one strip. I don't hate that idea. I don't think that that would obliterate the night sky for Nantucket to have one historic district with globes. The issue becomes more of a education standpoint, because you may have neighboring districts be like, well, why don't we have glass globes? So it kind of gives an inch and then people want the mile. So there are downsides just from a public interaction standpoint. But with zoning and controls, you can actually create zones that may have more light where the city needs, or the town needs more light. Next slide, please. And scene control, so you can have different ways of lighting per area. Next slide. Thank you. You can schedule, this is like one of my favorite tactics, is that you can actually turn lights down or off. And so that can be done across a 365-day calendar. So special events in the summer versus very little use in the winter. Next slide, please. You can even include occupancy sensing so that the light is truly only used when it's needed. Next slide. And this also gives you data, so you can actually understand what is your energy use. Next slide, please. And then also understand if fixtures are out. This is really your boots on the street without actually having to be out there. Next slide, please. And so we're going to go through current street lighting. So here you actually see two examples of this, of options that you have. That would be our Clearwater. That's not our Clearwater, but our version would be the Clearwater there. And then our version would be the Grosse Point on the right. Next slide, please. So Nantucket is actually mostly not LED. And actually that's good news for you because you're at the precipice of potentially getting a lot of energy savings and updating your lighting. But a lot of communities that updated to LED did it before dark sky was a thing. So you get the opportunity to actually one fell swoop invest and get so much out of your installation in terms of technology and energy savings and LED and dark skies. Next slide, please. So light color could be improved, and a vision I've always had for Nantucket is beautiful amber, dark sky, LED street lights dotting the streets and reclaiming the stars. I think it would be absolutely gorgeous. Next slide, please. And there's other opportunities to include GFCI receptacles, which is really a plug. A street pole is really a piece of city infrastructure that can be used to support holiday lighting. So this can actually make holiday lighting or whatever the plug could be used for very useful in your city infrastructure. Next slide, thank you. So controls, I think, are key to any modern lighting project. And then optics and frosted lenses. So this can also give you a lot more visual comfort and making sure that the light and the energy that you are spending is going exactly where you want it optically. Next slide, thank you. This is a case study we did in Cambridge. Again, yes, very historical, Holly. Next slide, please. So this is the Anderson Memorial Bridge. It crosses over the Charles River from Alston to Cambridge. And you'll see that these are dark sky fixtures that replaced fixtures that were once very similar, just with globes. And you can see there actually is a finial in there. Next slide, please. So, and next slide, please. Just delight your eyes with these dark sky fixtures. Next slide. And next slide. I actually went out, I was a long-time resident of Cambridge. I lived there for 9 years. Now I live in Medford. But I went out and took these photos myself, so you can see that and this is a video showing you just what it would feel like to walk down a street with dark sky fixtures.
One of the hardest things too, from a conversion from a globe fixture over to a dark sky fixture, is that loss of appearance of light. And so the human eye naturally is going to notice and attract to that illuminated globe. But one thing that we want to assure you in this is that the fixture, all the while the fixture is producing less overall lumens, it's delivering the same amount of lumens, if not more, than what you currently have to the roadway, to the sidewalks, and the crosswalks, which is ultimately where we want the light from a pedestrian safety standpoint. And to me, in my opinion, the dark sky fixtures have always given nice, warm welcome feeling. And, with obviously the ferry being just down Main Street, people getting off the ferry late at night or, early in the morning coming up, it's about giving that warm welcome to visitors coming into town to want to spend money in shops, restaurants, and everything like that. And so one of the things that Jane and I offered to Angus as well yesterday, because I know it's hard to kind of figure out exactly how much light or how much wattage you would want for your installation. We are with the adaptive controls that Jane mentioned integrated into our fixture. We can control that up and down to get the right output level for the town and to keep everybody happy in that historic field, but also provide enough light so that everybody's safe on the roadways as well.
Next slide, please. These are just more images showing the useful light that is being delivered more efficiently because you're not wasting light going up into the sky. Next slide, please. This is another video showing car lights in combination with the pedestrian lighting. Next slide, please. And these are just seminars, should you ever need help convincing the community why dark sky lighting is important. Spec Lines and myself, I offer Starving for Darkness and Wildlife as Form Giver. These are accredited by the Landscape Architecture Continuing Education System. So if you ever need help convincing any members of the community, I'd be so happy to deliver these presentations. They come straight from my heart. And so I think that's our last slide. Maybe one more. Yes, so that is it. So we'll open it up to any questions and we can, of course, reverse back through if anyone wants to talk to a slide.
Yes, Gail.
Oh, hi, everybody. Sorry, I wasn't able to be there in person with you, and I am having a Zoom issue, so I hope I don't get cut off. But I want to thank Nick and Jane for coming to the island and for working with Nantucket Lights to come up with something that you guys would consider appropriate. My hope was after this meeting, after hearing all the options, that you guys might be able to give guidance as a commission on what you think would be most appropriate with respect to the internal elements part of it, so that DPW could take that into consideration when they decide which fixtures to buy to comply with the bylaw. The other thing I just wanted to add was about globes versus no globes. As you may recall from the April meeting, I have asked Dark Sky International to make an exception to allow fixtures with globes on Main Street and not disqualify Nantucket from being certified as an international dark sky community. We're still waiting for a decision on that. The photometrics of the pilot Spring City fixture have been submitted to them for consideration, and I hope to hear back in the next couple weeks. But don't have any other updates about that for you on the globes versus no globes. But Jane can confirm, but any of those options with for the internal elements could be with a globe or not globe. So it's sort of like two different design questions.
That is correct. We can do either option with a globe, without a globe, with internal elements. It's all basically can be customized to whatever the community wants.
Yeah, and then one of the questions that had come up previously on this is obviously, the cost, of course, gets brought into the conversation, but we want to assure that all the different options would not change any costing. So it wouldn't, it doesn't become a costing situation. It becomes hey, what does the town want? What does the committee want? And, that way to come to a decision. It might make it harder on everybody to come to a decision, but it also allows the community to have all the options and not add or subtract costs from the project. And regarding the Gail, you brought up the testing and anything like that. We're located in Spring City, Pennsylvania. We have access to UL Laboratories in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We have a very good relationship with them. If there's any additional testing that will be helpful throughout this process, we're more than happy to go through that process. with them as well. Go ahead, Gail, sorry, you had a question.
I have to wait for Rita to tell me that.
Go ahead, Gail, please, thanks.
Thanks. Again, I just wanted to confirm, it sounds like, some of the commissioners, like the hurricane lamp option the best. Having that glass in the middle like that, I just want to confirm that that won't create uplighting that it would still comply with the bug rating requirement of the bylaw. With the internal glass hurricane lamp, I'm not talking about the outer globe. If you took
Yeah,
out the
that-
outer globe, would that comply with the bug rating requirement?
Yes, it still would. The bylaw allows for, or I'm sorry, IDA allows for a certain amount of reflected light, if you will, as a percentage of total light on the fixture. And ultimately that the reason that's there is because there's always going to be some reflected light off of the surface of the fixture when it's when it's a post-top mounted fixture. When it's a pendant fixture from above, you have nothing below that light source, so there's never going to be any uplight as long as the fixture is designed appropriately. So for the post-top fixture, yes, you would still be able to meet the requirements of IDA with that chimney there. And because of them allowing that certain small percentage of reflected uplight.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think for me personally, I think the appearance of the chimney seems most appropriate, and I like the fact that it would have a little illumination in it from the light from above, which would, make it look more functional compared to like the mantle, which sounds like would the top portion of it would block the little mantles from actually being illuminated. So I think you would be able to tell that that is just sort of decorative and not functional. But I know we sort of had discussed this in our last month's meeting when Gail was here. I personally feel like the look of the clear water feels more appropriate compared to the gross point without any kind, like even with a hurricane inside. I think without the globe, the gross point just looks much more or if you could even go back one slide, yeah, to the or
This one, that one.
one forward, I think.
One,
Not the Maple Lane one, but the is it Maury?
yeah, one forward,
Yeah.
Sconset Lane, Sconset.
right there.
Right there.
Oh,
No, I
sorry.
think she wants the Sconset one there.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah. I think this, I know downtown we do predominantly have the more like Victorian-y type gross point-ish light, but I think if we were going to go to that glassless throughout, that these just look as something we sort of discussed last week, looking at this, it almost looks like, oh, the glass is there, it's just like super clean, whereas I think the gross point is just much more obvious that nothing is there. For my 2 cents. Gail?
Rita, when you say that, do you mean you're suggesting that the colonial version be put even on Main Street?
No, I mean, I think it would be nice to see if, there was possible to get an exemption to have globed fixtures on Main Street. That would personally, I think that would be my preference. Just as an individual, but
So just so I understand, you still want me to pursue the exception that we've requested from Dark Sky International for Main Street?
I would be in support of that as, personally. I'm not sure how any
Well,
of the other commissioners feel.
we're pursuing it. If they say yes, then you have the option. It doesn't mean you have to. It just means you would have the option. So
Yeah.
I'll let you know what becomes of that.
Great.
Could I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to support what Rita said. I like the idea of the globes on Main Street, and if we're just talking a very short section of Main Street there in the heart of the downtown, and I do like in other areas what Rita said, the ones with the angled 4 supports instead of 2 supports. When you have just the 2 supports, the way it is on Main Street, the demo, it really looks like everything is missing, like there's no lamp there. And I think it does give the illusion, as Rita said, that there's actually glass there. It's just clean when you have the angled four-sided as compared to the wide open, no glass appearance of the one on Main Street that we're using as a demo.
Thank you, George. Abby, Clement, Angus, did you want to add anything?
So I've been quiet because I feel like I covered so many things with Jane and Nick yesterday. Both of you were so helpful answering questions, giving ideas, offering options. I in this presentation, the only new thing that I'm seeing, well, there are two things. In the overall selection of all the different fixtures, I don't know if you could go back to that
Yep.
slide, Holly.
Which one was that one that you wanted?
It was like 6 different
Yep.
kinds of fixtures,
Can
maybe a few back from that.
you guys still see this? You let me know. If you guys
You're
can't-
not screen sharing at the moment.
Thank you. Bear with me. Yeah, I opened it twice.
So one thing was, thank you for providing the photographs and video from the bridge in Cambridge. I've looked at that as best as I can as I'm racing along Star Drive, so.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was that there was an intentional, having the posts holding the cap perpendicular with the road.
Yeah.
So that when you're looking down the sidewalk, you get the illuminated frame of what would be the glass. And so I think that if we do, if that's the kind of fixture that we end up with, that's an important detail to pay attention to. But the video also provided, what does it look like looking down the sidewalk across the street and then back down the sidewalk, and the illumination sort of was presenting a globe even though you were turning that other way. So I thought that was interesting. So this is that fixture that's blown up there, the big one. That gives the four corners of what could be the glass, but it's not as rigid as the sort of the box square one. And it seems like it's almost more like the fixtures, the Grosse Pointe fixtures that I think all of us are leaning towards on Main Street. I don't want to throw a curveball of like whole new fixture, but I think part of what is drawing us to that other fixture is the four corners that sort of create the idea of glass. So I just wanted to throw that out, but I agree with Rita as far as Main Street. Ideally, the globe would be there with all the fixtures. I think that the slight illumination, as slight as it might be, is going to read more authentic and less decorative, to have the globe inside the fixture for the guts, as opposed to the mantle that would really sort of end up having a shadow where there would normally be light coming from. And so I think continuing to pursue the idea of seeing if the globe is, if we'd be allowed to have that, would be, I think that's smart to go ahead and see if we have the option with it. But whether we had it or not, I think that the most successful gut situation would be the hurricane globe or chipping.
Can I comment on that? Sorry.
Yes, thanks, Angus. And Nick?
And Rita, I have joined as well,
Yes, thank you,
late,
Clement.
but I'm here.
Thank you.
So I'm catching up. I do think it'd be nice to have I call it a hurricane instead of a globe, but inside the Main Street lighting fixtures. I love the one out in Sconset. It's fabulous. So I'd love to see those everywhere. And then whatever we can do with the ones on Main Street, they probably should be different. But with just those two kind of flimsy little structures holding up the top, I think we need the chimney inside like that. So, and that's just my personal opinion. I'm not trying to be historic in any sense. But thank you for this presentation.
Thank you, Clement.
My
Abby?
turn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I agree with most of what everyone else is saying. Angus, I think you made a couple really good points that I agree with as well. Like I like how you brought up the idea of like the shadow. I think that is really good. And Clement, I agree with you that I just like the idea of the little look of the globe inside. But I'm flexible, and I fully admitted yesterday, as Jane and Nick knows, I'm not a lighting expert, so I'm willing to defer to the more knowledgeable of the board on this. But I just kind of like instinctively thought, like Clement said, I thought the light ensconce it, like I think it looks really nice. And I also just appreciate you guys coming out and giving us these these examples and letting us see, like, I agree, I think that looks nice, but just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Was there anything else, Angus, or?
Holly, could you please go back one slide?
Go forward.
I think it was looking down Union Street from across Main Street. There, yeah. So the one that we were looking at yesterday was in front of Ralph Lauren, but then there's another fixture across the street to the right that's a little bit, well, I don't know if you can see it, if the pictures, if everybody's, if that
I can-
slides.
I can
Oh, yep.
explain that.
This
Sure.
one?
Yeah, but what Nick and Jane had suggested yesterday is that if we were a little bit on the fence about which fixture worked better, they could do one on one corner and one on the other, so you can sort of see the two at the same time in the same location. And so I thought that was a great suggestion too.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be helpful. Gail?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to that one to the right. The difference is that one is made by Penn Globe, which is the manufacturer of our current streetlights. And the one in front of Ralph Lauren is made by Spring City, which is a different manufacturer. And both were put up to show you that they're very similar to each other. And I will say, when the feedback from the WPI student survey came in that something was missing, Spring City was the manufacturer who was willing to work on a redesign and try to customize something for Nantucket to address those concerns. I don't know where Penn Globe is on all of this. So I just put that out there. It would be up to DPW whether they wanted to switch out that Penn Globe fixture for another Spring City fixture, or whether they wanted to choose another site, possibly to put the two Spring City fixtures options. But I love Jane and Nick, I love that you're willing to supply another sample fixture for Nantucket, because I do think seeing it in person is important. And what I feel like I'm hearing from everybody, it sounds like almost everybody, I think everybody, if my notes are correct, really preferred that, let's call it the hurricane lamp option. We'll have to give it a name, and so maybe I can work with Jane to get one of those in. But if I understand correctly, Jane, correct me if I'm wrong, they have to custom make this for Nantucket. So again, that's going just, these things are not off the shelf. They would be designing something and making a prototype just for Nantucket. So I really love that they're willing to go above board to do that. It would be up to DPW whether they're willing to put another fixture in. But we can certainly explore that with them. I don't see why I can't see a reason why they wouldn't. Jane, could you talk about when that sample might be available?
I'll defer to Nick on the lead
Yeah,
time.
so I would definitely have to go back to the factory and see where the lead times are based on current inventory. One of the other options too is it sounds as though everybody's in agreement that having no guts, if you will, is not a preferred option. So we could potentially just supply a couple components to the DPW to modify the current Spring City installation as an option as well. And so if it's depending on those lead times, we could keep that fixture installed, supply an additional one that if the DPW and everybody agrees on a different location to install it, worst case, we could supply the chimney and the components to be replaced in the fixture that's in the field currently. But I can get back on the lead time.
Thank you. Gail?
So I wish the DPW director was still online. I think he signed off, but one thing they do have to consider, because they would be responsible for maintaining it, is the extra maintenance because of that hurricane lamp. So I could see possibly where they would want to have both side by side and do a community survey just to make sure that the community really felt that hurricane lamp was important, because that, then that's how they could justify the additional, maybe it doesn't cost more for the fixture, but it's going to cost more in terms of staffing time. But I can check with DPW about that. But thank you again, Nick and Jane, for doing all this, and thank you, commissioners, for hearing this and for understanding the importance of dark sky and helping us sort of sort out how we can have both dark sky, streetlights, but also something historically appropriate. So thank you very much.
Rita,
Yes,
Mary,
Andy.
Mary Bergman has joined us, and I think she might want to say something.
Oh, thank you. Mary?
Thanks, Mary Bergman, Nantucket Preservation Trust, Madam Chair, through you to Drew, if he's still on the call. If not, I want to know a little bit more about the procurement process because. Sorry. But I'm curious, a lot of really specialized discussion about one vendor, and I know this is something that is gonna, I assume, go out to bid. So I just wonder, at what point there's a lot, does the community and this group invest a lot in something that the town then is not able to buy? That's a fear that I have. So, how do you make sure that doesn't happen, I guess? And then I would also love to know, and this maybe can't be answered at this meeting right now, but what are the DPW's plans for tackling the dark sky compliance at their own facility, 180 Nantucket Road? Is there a chance that we could hear from the airport what their plans are and the school? Again, I know that it's important for the town state leadership, and Main Street is our, highly visible spot, but I think it would be very useful as you're going forward with this process to find out what other parts of the town are doing to meet these bylaw requirements while a lot of pressure is being put on this historic street to comply with this. So that's perhaps too much for this one meeting, but it'd be great to know by the next one.
Yeah. Thank you. Drew, would you like to respond?
Sure. Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
For those that don't know me, I'm Drew Padno, Director of Public Works. All right, a lot to unpack, a lot of questions. First, Gail, I was here. I did hear your question about maintenance. I think as far as the hurricane, what was that called? The hurricane lamp inside or other kind of internal components that are more decorative, I'm not overly concerned with maintenance. One thing, Gail, that we had talked about with Lauren Sinatra and Paul was the globe, like glassless fixture, and the longevity of the LED fixtures inside, especially potentially being more susceptible to moisture and other things, was something that we would be concerned about. So in short, whether we do the hurricane lamp or some other decorative fixture inside. I'm not overly concerned that that would be our major maintenance concern. Hopefully that answers your question. Mary, as far as your questions about procurement, I believe both Penn Globe and Spring City are available through the Massachusetts state bid list. If it's something unique to Nantucket and there's a sole source vendor, I'm sure we can navigate procurement as well. We've done a number of kind of one-off LED prototype fixtures over the years. And so I'm confident that whatever direction we decide to go with going forward, we'll be able to navigate that. As far as the other municipal facilities, including 188 Nantucket, the solid waste facility, and our 50 or so scattered, buildings and facilities around the island. The WPI students did also do an inventory of the exterior or external fixtures and outdoor lighting at those buildings and grounds. Furthermore, Gail has very generously connected the town with a lighting expert from, I forget what university. Gail could probably speak to it more, but he will be out here, I believe, at the end of June to further the work that the WPI students did. And a big part of that is not only updating and kind of getting more detailed information about our existing outdoor fixtures, but developing suitable replacement fixtures and kind of giving us a bit of a roadmap. Basically, if you have this wall pack, this is what you would replace it with to become compliant, and also with that inventory, be able to it would allow us to kind of figure out what's the low hanging fruit, like an onion style fixture that's outside of like Three's Chestnut, for example, simply just needs a new light bulb. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do kind of in the short term, and then other things that we'll have to probably bundle together into a bid package, and engage with an electrician to get those things swapped out. Additionally, in parallel with all of that, we were awarded a grant from Remain Nantucket, and that was, I think, $30,000 for technical assistance as far as outdoor lighting bylaw compliance at town-owned facilities, but also $45,000 towards actual improvements. So swapping out fixtures, hiring an electrician, buying those new lights. So we do have a lot going on, even outside the town-owned streetlights, to try to be a leader and get all of our facilities and what's hundreds and hundreds of lights brought into compliance.
And if I just say thanks, that's like a really excellent comprehensive answer that I had not heard it articulated before and as at this meeting, and I think it's really useful information. So I'm glad you were on the call.
Yeah, thanks. No, we certainly have a lot going on as far as lighting is concerned.
Yes, thank you, Drew. That was really good. Glad to hear so much of that. Thank you. Gail?
Thank you, Drew. I'm so glad you were here to explain all that yourself instead of me trying to paraphrase or have hearsay. So just to answer the detail you didn't know, this consultant, he's with Ohio Northern University. He's a professor who in the summer, he has an endowment to help communities become dark sky. He's worked with so many communities in national parks and state parks to get dark sky, international dark sky place certification. So he knows the ropes, and he's going to come June 23rd through the 30th, I believe. So I've been working very closely with Drew and Paul at DPW and Lauren Sinatra on all town-owned lighting, Mary, and airport is another one that we've been in touch with. I've just sent them the lighting management plan and inventory that from the Jackson Hole Airport, that was just certified as an international dark sky place, the first airport to get such a certification. So they're going to be a really great role model for Nantucket. So we are working, across the board. It's not just street lights, but one reason the street lights kind of are a priority, and Drew can elaborate on this is, you know, different ones are failing. And so they get a lot of calls about like, come fix the street light, this is out. And so these fixtures are kind of expensive. So you don't want to put one in now. And then when you know, a few years down the road, you decide on a holistic approach to replace it. So it's kind of important to come up with a plan now about which fixtures you want, so that, you know, over these next 3 years, they can be ordered, and, you know, installation takes time. So there's more, I would say there's more, what's the right word? Upfront lead time needed for the streetlights than, because they are custom ordered, than the other fixtures that are going to be on the DPW buildings, which are pretty much commercially, you know, available off the shelf.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Any further comments?
Madam Chair, Nick wanted to say something else.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
As Drew said, lots to unpack there. I feel like I had a lot of comments along the way to go ways back, but just wanted to speak from a Spring City standpoint really quick, just on going back to Angus's comments on the luminaires. So all of our post-top dark sky luminaires all have the same LED system. We're utilizing the same LED boards, we're utilizing the same LED drivers. It's just essentially packaged differently into the decorative appearance that you'd like. And so from a compatibility standpoint, you know, across the island, you know, on choosing the Clearwater versus choosing the Grosse Pointe, the DPW could be stocking the same components, shall something need to be replaced into the future. I also know that the comment was brought up about the LEDs being in the roof of the fixture when there's no globe, that potentially they're not as protected. They are just as protected in a dark sky fixture as they are with a fixture with a globe. The panel underneath the LEDs has a gasket there, and that's going to seal that chamber. And due to the design of our fixtures, they are producing 98% of their initial light output 20 years into the future based on our TM21 calculations. And from a warranty standpoint, we do offer a 10-year manufacturer warranty that covers the LED boards, the surge protector, and the driver, shall any of those need to be replaced during that period of time.
Good to hear. Madam Chair?
Yes, Holly.
Thank you. Just from a staff's perspective, and being, you know, Nantucket native, grown up here, seeing these streetlights, my entire life. My 2 cents would be to have the hurricane, if it is the, DPW's wish to have them glassed in. I think obviously requesting that variance from Dark Skies International is important. I do think, I don't want to speak for this commission, but I do think that if we needed to write a letter of support in that request to kind of emphasize the importance, I think that's important. When we look at Nantucket in general, when we became a local historic district in 1955, we became one of the first national historic landmarks in 1966. We had some updated done, I think, in 1972. And then eventually in 2012 to expand our period of significance through the preservation movement, as well as kind of codify everything. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is we've had Historic American Building surveyed in Nantucket, National Park Service, and within our documentation of the NHL, streetlights are actually shown. In one of the, if you go to Library of Congress, you can see, I want to say it was photographer Jack Bauscher, I think that's his name, Mary, from National Park Service. And my point is, it's a characteristic of Nantucket downtown. You know, Nantucket's main street is after the Great Fire of 1846. So 1840s is when we widened it. And that's pretty much that characteristic feeling as you get off the ferry. And so my point would be is if it is a, we all recognize the importance of, you know, being compliant and seeing, you know, all of that light. I've noticed it a lot as being grown up here, but retaining the characteristics. So happy to hear that there's movement to be able to, you try to bring all of these different moving parts and pieces quite literally together. And I would definitely be an advocate for the, for glass and the hurricane, even though it sounds like they're both from, whether they're glassless or not, that the LED is still being able to be protected, if you will. But I'm looking at, from what I heard from Drew, as the director of DPW, the maintenance thing, and one less thing for them to look at. So that's my 2 cents. So I appreciate you all being here today. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Holly. Gail?
Sorry, if I could just say one more thing in response to Holly, I think I would like to take her up on the offer, or you guys up on the offer, to provide a letter of support to Dark Sky International, because last time, Holly, when you suggested, I thought they were like on the verge of making a decision already, but given that they're still weighing it, I think maybe that would be helpful. So I don't know what, as a commission, I don't know if you have to make a motion for that, or you can just do that, but I think that would actually be great and could really help get an exception to have globes on Main Street.
I'm happy to make a motion to write a letter to encourage their choice to accept the hurricane globe. I feel like the terminology I feel like the internal glass is the chimney and the external glass is the globe. But
Yeah.
to add
Sorry to make
outer-
sure, Angus, to make sure your motion is right. You're talking about the external globe,
that's
not
correct.
not the hurricane lamp. They don't care about the insides. They care about that globe on the outside that reflects the light up and out.
It's a letter to advocate for the exterior glass globe.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right, so motion made by Angus and seconded by George to write a letter of support to the Dark Sky International in support of stressing why we think it's important to have an exemption made so to have the glass globes on our Main Street streetlights. So Angus, on your motion?
Aye.
George?
aye.
Abby? Perhaps Abby stepped away. Clement?
Aye.
And I'm an I as well. Great. So we will, I will draft that up, and Gail, I might reach out to you just in terms of who it should be addressed to specifically and that information, but we'll get on.
Thank you very much. And Rita, I'll just help you get the terminology right so that they understand what you're referring to.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, great. So unless anyone has any last comments on this topic, seeing none, so thank you again to Jane and Nick and Gail. Thanks all so much for your time. We will move on now to a update from Holly on our historic resource survey. This is next on the agenda.
On exiting, I think Nick and Jane wanted to say something.
Oh, thank you, Angus.
Just wanted to say thank you to everybody for the time. It's been awesome spending time here. The town's been awesome. And my wife and I actually coming in next weekend, so I'm looking forward to that too.
Nice.
Did some reconnaissance, but I appreciate the time. And we love seeing the impact that street lighting can make on a community, on a downtown area. And we're happy to be here as a resource for everybody involved and appreciate the opportunity. So I just want to say thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you for your time. We've really enjoyed connecting and discussing all of these options. And as Nick is saying, we love the way the world can look at night with beautiful lighting. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you both. And thank you, Gail. All righty. Great. So Holly, can you update us on the historic resource surveys?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get this out for.
No.
You. Oh. Yeah, so I wanted to mention that the In the process of I mentioned procurement is a little bit difficult, but, learning curve, what I should say. I'm in the process of, getting through with our procurement for the town-owned historic resources with the wind farm funding. So hopefully that will go out here shortly. And then the next would be to, finalize our, MHC grant. I'm in the process of getting our funding back from the fiscal 22 project. I need to reach out to MHC to make sure they got that last final document, but that's in the works. And that kind of segues into, there are some unknowns in the world of federal grants. I'll just, we'll talk about that later, but, there's slow progression. Let's just say that. Wanted to bring that up.
Okay, so for that, the fiscal year 23 funding from the Massachusetts Historical Commission, where do things stand with the RFQ for that?
That's one of the other ones I need to get on board. And I have not heard from MHC as far as with the changes at the federal level, if there's going to be any changes to it. I think everything should be fine because it was already allocated prior to the current administration. But that needs to be in the works. Well, it is in the works as far as getting that fixed. I just don't have it finalized yet.
Okay, do you anticipate that by our June meeting, that
I would
RFQ
love
will be
to.
updated?
I would love to. That would be
Okay,
a goal.
fantastic, great. Hope we can get that done. All right, is there any questions from any commissioners on this before we move on? Alrighty, seeing none, so that brings us to the sewer force main project, the sidewalk curbing and cobblestone replacement. As we talked about last month, we mentioned the Winter Street cobblestones were going to be being restored, and that is in progress currently. Holly, did you have any additional updates?
I haven't heard from David in a bit, but I know that they're working. He was gonna let me know where, specifically when they were gonna install those. I did see a photo recently that somebody posted online showing the big stack of cobbles that are waiting for their installment. But I did stress that I would like to know when that's being done. So at least I can let you all know as well as I want to physically see it. I haven't been down there in a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like last week they were working on it, putting the cobbles back in place. Drew?
Yeah, I just want to give you as an update. I went through there yesterday. Victor Brandon Corporation was paving Pine, Liberty, and Gardner Street, and I noticed that the cobblestones on Winter and across Main Street are already complete.
Oh, okay.
They made fairly quick work of it, but it's a very labor-intensive process, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes, for sure.
It is. And I would, Madam Chair, through you to Drew, I know that Victor and his crew are well aware of the specs. So,
Yeah, so the cobblestone work was actually done by MTK, which is a subcontractor to Robert B. Hour. Victor happened to do the paving, obviously, on kind of both sides of that effort. I did go out a couple times to meet with the resident engineer and the general foreman from MTK to talk about the appropriate installation method. They obviously were already, they already had the right materials, but we met in the field to talk about kind of the approach to the actual installation, curb reveal, stuff like that. So I think it came out really nicely when you go through there because it was just recently done. There's a lot of stone dust that's still more visible that will kind of settle in, and even some of it might wash out or kind of get migrated a little bit. So it's going to look a little different than what you see on Main Street, because they're just brand new. But I think it'll settle in really nicely and blend in seamlessly with the cobblestones that you're used to seeing downtown.
perfect.
Thank you. That sounds great. So I think we can move on as well to our Next on the agenda is an update on the repair of the Civil War monument, which very exciting to report, is going to be happening this Sunday. Holly, do you have more information?
So Frank, from Colonial,
Colonial Stone.
thank you, Colonial Stone, called me just to let me know that he had a couple of guys coming over this weekend. So they'll be working on there and I'm, based on the post I saw in the Current, I know that they've gone through the proper channels to get a police detail, because what he explained to me in their methodology they're gonna have to not only take out the curbing that's in front of where it got hit, but also a couple of rows of cobble. So of course, you know, that being a thoroughfare, we need to make sure that everybody is safe. And when he called me up, I let Drew know, so that he was aware of it. And, it sounded like, it didn't sound like Frank himself was physically coming to the island, that he has a couple of guys that are coming. But yes, he understands how important this site is. So very, very, very nice to hear that it's gonna be fixed. Yay.
Yes. And we are anticipating that it's going to look a little
Yes.
new, a little, you know, it's gonna take some time for it to get that patina, but we can, if we hear from members of the public, we can let them know, you know, it will patina out to match the rest of the fencing around the monument once it's complete.
Correct. I mean, I thought so. Maybe it was something that we could work with our communications department, maybe Drew, and see if, you know, put something out there, because people I think are going to be a little shocked at first, but listening to Frank, it's gonna take about a year for that patina to come back, but it's gonna be as good as new.
I think that's a good idea to get ahead of
Get
it
ahead
by
of
giving people a heads up. This is not going to look perfect to begin with, but in order for it to look perfect later, it's gotta be like this now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that with even the you know, the fountain monument on Main Street, that people were so alarmed at how shiny it looked, but that's really for the protection of the monument, is you want that that shiny appearance to start. So yeah, that's great. I'm hopeful to be there. I'll be arriving back on the island on Sunday afternoon, so I hope I can go and see some of the installation if they're still going once I make it back. Great. Are there any questions from anybody about this? No? Okay, all sounds good. So then we, next on the agenda, we wanted to talk about advocacy for federal funding of historic preservation, as Holly mentioned, and I know she forwarded an email from the Alliance of Preservation Commissioners to all of us last week. The current federal administration has frozen historic preservation funds and are proposing really drastic cuts to federal funding for historic preservation, which, you know, the resource survey funding that we receive it via an application to the Massachusetts Historical Commission, but it's federal funding that the MHC is then allocating. So it is that federal funding that is being threatened. And Holly, did you want me to share, or
Yeah. If
okay,
you wouldn't mind.
great. I can I'll pull up what was in our packet.
And
So
Madam Chair, if it's okay
yes.
to mention, so in that email I forwarded on, NEPC had a couple of documents within it. One of them we did have in our packet about historic preservation being under threat, which was coming from a whole list of preservation organizations, from the National Conference of SHPOs to National Trust for Historic Preservation, a whole bunch of different partners, if you will, in the field of historic preservation nationwide. And one of their links that NAPC had was how recent federal actions impact our local preservation commissions. And I think it's, as you mentioned, you know, it's where we get our funding from MHC. As a CLG, we're one of, I think now there's 31 32 maybe now, within the Commonwealth that are CLGs that are allowed to have that federal funding, and they're required to, per Congress, to allocate 10% of that federal funding. So the fact that the federal government now is the fiscal year 25 funding is under threat. And the proposed budget cuts are substantial. So I don't know if you know, from a local perspective, if there's something that we can do to advocate, other than reaching out to our state representatives and say, hey, how this is important, please allocate at the federal level.
Yes, I know certainly Senators Markey and Warren have been very vocal advocates, and not only for preservation funding, but for a lot of the more like historic and cultural funding that have been cut, things like the Institute of Museum and Library Services, National Endowment for the Humanities, National Endowment for the Arts. It's not just historic preservation. And I think Congressman Keating has also been outspoken as well. I certainly have, I mean, I know their offices are receiving lots of calls about lots of things these days, but I did contact the senators and congressmen's offices. I guess the question, I would certainly encourage anyone on this call, if you're so inclined to do so yourself personally. I guess the question would be, is there value in us as a board writing any sort of letter? But is there anyone comments from anybody? Angus?
So I appreciate the heads up and the links to be able to send letters to people. And I think that organizations generally have more impact than individuals. So I would make a motion for us as a commission to write a letter advocating for funding.
I'll second that, Angus. Think it's a great idea. I did, for the record, I did do them individually, but I agree. I don't think they're as impactful.
I would agree. Okay, so we have a motion made by Angus, seconded by Abby, to write a letter to our congressional representatives to urge them to protect funding for historic preservation. Angus, on your motion?
Aye.
Abby?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Clement? Oh. Do you want to give us a thumbs up? Oh, there you
I
go.
finally got back on. Yes, great
Okay.
idea. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And I'm an aye as well. So that's unanimous. And we will, I'll draft a letter.
And Madam Chair, I just wanted to thank those that have done it individually. Thank you. I think the more letters that do get sent, the better, really. But I definitely agree. A collective letter is important. Thank you for that.
Great. All right. So that takes us to commission goals. Abby, did you want to share your screen? Or
and I'm sorry, I know last meeting I had a conflict, so we didn't get to review them from the last meeting. So I'm sorry about that, everyone. For what it's worth.
yeah, no problem.
All right. I am pulling it up now.
Thank you.
Here we go. Okay. Oh, sorry, can everybody see this? Should I make it bigger?
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, we
No,
can see it. I think
Okay.
you're all good.
So this, I have to update it as we're doing it, but the last thing we had was, we had applied for the grant. Holly, I think you had sent it prior. I don't know where our next.
So For clarification, Madam Chair, through you, this would be the current grants that we have fiscal 23. That we've received funding from the state. It's just a matter of procuring a consultant that meets qualifications. Qualifications need to be adjusted. That's what I'm working on with procurement.
Great.
Maybe-
This way we need the new,
That's
We-
the second, bullet, I think that you have.
oh, what about?
And then the fiscal 22 is the one that's gonna be completed. That was the one that finished the fish lots and started into Brant Point. Those we have in hand, waiting for MHC to, one, put those surveys up on their, in Macris and have it available to us here locally with our GIS. In the meantime, all the paper copies and PDFs I have, so if anybody wants to see them, they can sure come and, ask me. But the biggest portion is to receive our 50% reimbursable, because it was a 50% reimbursable grant. So waiting for that check to come in the mail.
Yeah, and I think we had also talked about in the meantime, as we're waiting for those surveys to be added to Macros, could we post just a combined PDF to the NHC website, which, are for previous fiscal years, I know we have like the first batch of the fish lot surveys is up. And I think it would be helpful in the interim to have those available to people. So if there's anything I can do to assist with that, even just, if it's as simple as combining them into one PDF or perhaps two, maybe one for the second portion of the fish lots and one for the Brand Point, I'm happy to assist.
Thank you. I will send an email out to Florencia from our communications department and ask how she would like to handle that for us. So I'll
Okay.
get that.
Great, because I just know it can take a while for macros to be updated, and I would love to have those accessible to the public.
Yes.
In some
Um,
way,
I was
Um,
asked at the HDC meeting the other night about how long I anticipate for that to happen, and I'm like, I have no idea. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, so I think if we could get them up, at least on our site, that
Yes.
would be great to have this accessible.
sorry, Rita, thank
Oh,
you.
no, I'm done.
Holly, do we have any idea? Cause you said you're still waiting on the qualifications. Do you think, like, what do you want me, do you think that'll be by end of June? Like, what are you thinking for a date?
I would love it to be done by the end of June.
Do you want me to put end of July?
Sure.
Okay.
We did get an extension from the state, so, which is
Okay.
good.
All right, so I just updated that date. We are working on the historic site and the bollards. I still have the date of 9/1. Is that okay?
Yes, I did receive I guess Drew dropped off the call, but I did receive a response back from the town manager. It was after I guess a few weeks ago, it was after our last meeting, just that she had received it, that they were planning on reinstalling the bollards on Fair Street and that Meridian Stone, and then we're going to sort of move up the chain for the recommendations for expanding the sidewalk on Main Street to protect the Main Street stone. So that was positive.
So that's good. So bollard installation is pending.
Mhm.
Exciting, exciting.
Rita?
Rita. I'm glad there's an update there.
Rita, I have a question about the bollards on Fair Street. So will it be the same as what's there, or will it be a little bit nicer or more historically appropriate with being black with some sort of finial or something on it?
I believe it will just be the same as like a new version of the concrete filled, lolly columns that are there.
I've forgotten, they were painted white or yellow
They're
or,
yellow, I think.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, or white, yeah. I mean, right now they're very rusty. So
Yeah.
I think even if, it won't have like a decorative finish, but I think it will still be more attractive than the old rusty ones that are, you know, falling down.
The main reason is protection, so
Yes.
that's good to hear that it's happening sooner than later.
Yes, for
Yes.
sure.
And I had a quick conversation with Mike, because of course he was here when we had brought this up. And it sounded like that, basically the concept that you had drawn up of having the one on Main Street, it's in the works. So it sounded like that was a potential thing to do. So that's
That was
good.
a really rough sketch,
Yes.
so I hope
Yes.
they come back for details.
But yes, I have been, and my understanding, if there's any questions, they'll reach out to me, so I'll
Great.
keep you all posted.
Great.
Cool, thank you. Holly, I'm assuming I don't think there's anything new with the sewer force main.
No.
And
No, but
I mean, even for it sounds like for the winter string cobbles that's essentially completed. Which is exciting.
I'll reach out to David and see. He usually keeps me posted, but and everybody's busy.
Great, and let's see, Abby, I see you already updated the line about federal
funding.
Yes, grants, that's great. We haven't had any section 106 updates. That's just all still ongoing.
Yeah, I mean, town meeting, we did that, but I guess I can put that as complete since town meeting just happened.
Yeah.
We don't have any, no new reviews, and I know obviously this is part of the funding issue as well.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
With the MOU, Holly, are you still waiting to get, I know you said you have to like go through the process to get draft, but it like has to go through the chain of command. So I'm assuming you haven't been able to get it in front of town council, which for full context, I don't think that's shocking because I think town council has probably been really focused on everything for town meeting. So maybe now that town meeting is passed, we might have more of an opportunity. And is that correct, Holly?
Yeah, I mean, I have to go through the chain of command of doing the formal request to the planning director. Which then it goes up to the town manager and then it goes to town council. And I think, frankly, I would need either you or Rita to send me the latest and greatest of the one that you all wanted, because to be honest with you, I'm a little fuzzy on which one.
Rita, I think you have it, right?
I do, yeah. We haven't made any real changes over, in months. So Holly, I can send that to you just so
So
you
I'll
have
just say, Rita will send Holly latest draft to request.
And quite frankly, we want to have both commissions be on the same page, but they essentially one, you all approved another, slight differences. And I think if I'm going to reach out to town council, then I'm going to have both of those together. And maybe town council can go from there.
Okay, so you're gonna go to the HDC chair first before you go to town council, right?
Well, I mean, I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah,
Well,
I
phrase
think
it.
so too.
I would wanna, the two of these commissions, you guys are supposed to work together, we have an MOU with the state, blah, blah, blah. We understand the justification and the reasons why the HTC wanted to move forward back when in 2021. I guess where I'm at right now is, as staff, I have one board that has approved one version, I have another board that approves another, I'm kind of stuck in the middle here. But yet we want to I've been advocating since the beginning that whatever is signed, that both commissions, that they go and get vetted through town council, because town council is going to be able to say yay or nay. if it gets to town council. I'm gonna put that caveat on there as well. Meaning if it goes up to the chain of command and I get a yes, Holly, you can move forward. I guess at this point, bringing it back to the HTC from what this commission had done, I think is maybe a little, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what else to say.
Well, I
happy
think
to
just
add
bring it
on.
to them and at least see how they receive it. And then we can kind of figure out where to go from there. Right?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, so Rita's gonna send it to Holly. We don't have any new historic tax credits. We don't have anything update on the education. I couldn't remember the name of the NAPC training, but it's next week, right, Holly?
Yes, the 27th, I think. There was another one I forwarded you to the CLG on as well.
There's also a training, it's a repeat of a training that the National Park Service, Technical Preservation Services did, a couple of weeks ago. They have one coming up. I think it's, the 21st of May about their, a recent preservation brief about, building codes and compliance with building codes and historic preservation. So Holly, I don't know if you sent that out to everybody, but I mean, I could forward it. I think it was definitely worthwhile.
Before we get too far away from the MOU piece, I wanted to say that in order for us, for the NHC and the HDC to be a CLG, we had to sign an MOU, which was the boilerplate. So that's what's been utilized for as long as we've been a CLG. And I don't know, I mean, we could be like the other CLGs that have both parties where the boilerplate is all there is. And in the past couple of meetings at the HDC, I think the chair has asked, are there any updates from the CLG? Maybe just throw it out there. Do we really need this? Do we need to have an additional thing? We've been functioning fully.
Angus,
and
if you really agree, I think they would agree. I don't think they wanted an additional MOU. So if everyone's in agreement, we don't need more. I think we should table it. But Angus, you did bring up a really good point that I just thought of, which is, Holly, we probably need to have our CLG meeting soon, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what,
Yeah.
so maybe, if everyone's okay, we table the MOU, but then Holly, you can connect with Stephen on the CLG meeting.
Yeah, because we do have to get that scheduled. I'm certainly in support of if the HDC is willing to just stick with the MOU that's already been signed and not, we can sort of just let the second one drop.
Should we, do we all feel that way? Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, just so that if Holly approaches the chair or comments on it in the meeting, that there's like a unified idea from NHC.
Yeah, Clement, George, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm fine with just letting it ride as it is.
I
am too, Rita.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So
Yeah, thank you, Angus. It's a good idea. Just
yeah. And certainly the five of us on this call have all expressed that we're in unanimous agreement. Okay, I think that's great.
Okay, so I just added that Holly, I think the focus will be trying to schedule the next CLG meeting.
Yes, and that has to be before June 30th.
30th. Okay, so I'll switch
Okay.
that date. And then we just talked about the trainings. I know we had talked about it in NARA workshop. I think it's usually sometime in the summer. So we can see about doing that this year.
Yes.
I had another training, education, kind of, well, maybe it's not just education, but it ties into historic preservation, so I'm just gonna go with it, and it's kind of a goal. recently, I put in my application to become a DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I didn't realize until as I recently looked at their website and their, as an adult, that historic preservation is one of their things, one of the things that they advocate for. And from that perspective, I thought, well, maybe our local chapter, the Abaya Folger Franklin chapter, who I'm in the process of becoming a member of, for full disclosure, it would be a great public and private partner, you know, with all things preservation, and that maybe you know, there's a way to, you know, work in events, things that they do, and vice versa, like we do with other preservation historic nonprofits. So I just wanted to maybe add that to our bottom of engaged peers, that they can be part of that.
Yeah, for sure. I know they typically have like speakers at their meetings. Maybe they would be like I could make a presentation as chair about what we at the NHC are doing, something of that nature.
I think that's great, and I put it down at the bottom, but you know, Holly, if maybe we do a workshop as well, so I put it in both places. Not just doing
Okay.
the mirror workshop, but seeing if we could do a DAR workshop. So I think it's great.
And one thing, when I was a visiting member, I guess, or visitor, I'm not a member yet, but they were talking about the fact that the African Meeting House has received funding, and then some of that funding, because they came from the federal government, has been or taken away. They lost it in the inking, and I think in the current. And they do have a grant for preservation at the higher level too. So they were actually going to help kind of advocate for preservation for the African Meeting House, because they know how important that is. So I just thought that was pretty neat to see the connection.
No, and that's great. And so I definitely think that's a good connection. And Holly, congrats.
Oh,
Are
thanks.
are you officially a member or not yet?
Not officially, but I was able to, with some help, link myself to, I am a relative of Benjamin Franklin. But you have to have a direct grandfather line. And unfortunately, that line didn't bring me to, he's a cousin, so he's not a grandfather. But I was able to I'm connected to a patriot from Connecticut. So very, very excited. Yes.
That's wonderful news, Holly. About the NARAB, what is going to make that happen? It sounds like it's coming up soon. And just being on the HTC and they're often, you know, development, redevelopment, things that come up as far as demolition or moving of historic structures or additions that are proposed that may not be appropriate. Just managing expectations when people are buying historic structures. I think that could be something that is taught every year. So if even if there isn't a program that we're doing, but just to help put things on the agenda, I think that would be really helpful to everybody.
I think that's a great idea. It sounds like you're volunteering, Angus, are you? Are you volunteering yourself into a job? But I think I did it Holly, did I do it last year or the year before?
I think it was Mary, myself, and you did it, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it happened last year. So
Yeah.
especially with that in mind, I would think it's
Yeah.
really
But
important to, you know, if you're willing to schedule that again.
Yeah, and
So-
I agree, Angus. I think it would be really helpful to have like a focus about the demo and that kind of stuff. And since Mary, I'm also volunteering you, Mary.
Put up to the mic, yeah.
Stepping up to the plate.
That I think it's all very apropos, and it would be good thing to focus on this year, especially because we haven't had it. So give a refresher, but really have the focus be on that. So I think it's a great idea. So I'm gonna put that in the notes.
It's so weird without the chairs.
I know.
But anyway, I just assume, I mean, very Native Preservation Trust. I think it would be great, you know, it's funny, I was listening to the folks from Spring City, listening to them talk about Cambridge and listening to them talk about other historic districts. It's a really big deal to live in a historic district. There are a lot of rules. Everyone on Nantucket voted those rules in, more than 50 years ago. And when I listen to the HDC, there is oftentimes this fear sometimes from some commissioners of, well, we can't tell people what to do. That is what the HDC can do. And maybe the real estate folks and those buying homes need to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I absolutely agree, Mary. And Angus, I think that's why, not to volunteer you, but I think it would be helpful to have you as an HDC member to kind of be letting the realtors know, like, it's a lot easier if they understand and like you guys can work together so that there's not surprises where someone comes in and like they told someone they can demo something and they can't, or stuff like that. So really like educating them so that everybody is, you know, on the same page and they know what they should be encouraging their clients to do and what they shouldn't do. And just, I think it would be really good to have it.
On that note too, we've had a couple of changes since going to NARAB and giving them education, and that would be the form of DOER's stretch energy code. And as of this week, got the HTC to approve my new application for historic terminations, and historic terminations are required in order for people to be exempt from the substantial compliance section of the building code. And we've requested it for not just those, but for if you've got a historic tax credit, so if they come to us, they also need to go to the commission, you know, HCC. We've had it for other different things, but because of DOER's push to put Nantucket in a different box when it comes to the historic district and say that windows aren't character defining features and you don't have any, you know, jurisdiction over it. Au contraire, Nantucket HDC does with our special act. So with our historic determination language, there's specific language that the chair of the HCC and myself have come up with to put into those letters so that people can push those towards DOER, and it helps the building commissioner not require not only for windows but also for structural components. So it's a form of making sure that these structures are being still, you know, historic structures. So I thought that was helpful, and that is something that I'm slowly trying to get people educated on. The NARAB would be a good organization to kind of emphasize it. I do have a primer, if you will, on it, that it is on the town's website. I've recently requested as of Wednesday for the new application to be on the town's website with our communications department. So hopefully that will be up soon. But yes, it's a separate application because in the past I've had to kind of guess on why people are asking for those exemptions or ask for a historic termination together. And I think that's important for the educate people on.
And building on your point about the stretch code and the HDC and NARAB is that I think there's a conception that replacing windows is always a good thing because of energy conservation. And the recent NAPC webinars that we've had about window restoration, it's actually greener to restore than it is to replace because the replacements are almost always temporary. So it really, it's wasteful besides not keeping the historical integrity. So that's another thing that could be shared with realtors, you know.
Yeah.
Don't be someone through saying, and you can replace all the windows. Because
Well,
that's not.
yeah, and like you said, Angus, letting them know that like, hey, you know, if you're, because I don't care who buys a house, if you're like, hey, you know, it's probably more financially, you know, prudent of you to restore these windows than to replace them, people are going to think about that too. So,
Yeah, for sure.
all right, so that's it. I will send this out after the meeting. And I did notice the next one. I'm sorry I never sent out the notes from last meeting, so I'll send them both out together with this one.
Great.
So I guess
you,
we
Abby.
don't have those.
Yeah,
approved
but we
minutes.
do have minutes from March to approve. Did anyone have any edits or changes or would like to move approval of those minutes?
I had a few, Abby addressed them, and so I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting of March 21, 25.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
All right, so motion to approve the minutes of our March meeting made by Angus, seconded by George. Angus on your motion?
Aye.
George?
aye.
Abby?
I
And I'm an I as well. Clement had to drop off, but okay, so is there any other business? Caroline, I know you've been on the meeting. Did you have anything you wanted to bring to the commission?
No, I was just listening, enjoying it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so anybody else? No other business?
motion to adjourn. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Holly, did you have something?
One thing, I just wanted to remind everybody, which I know you know, May is National Preservation Month. And it's being pushed obviously in the national level. In June is Nantucket's Preservation Month, so be sure to see our colleagues at NPT. I'm sure they have some things, but always encourage information about preservation. I don't care what time of year it is, so that's it. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you, Holly. Great. So our next meeting will be June 20th, our next regular NHC meeting, and we will also have a CLG meeting in June as well. So we'll be on the lookout, Holly, for scheduling information for you about that meeting. But I believe oh,
Was there on the floor to adjourn?
Oh, I had made the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
okay. Abby, on your motion.
Aye.
Angus.
Aye.
George.
Aye.
I'm an I as well. Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank
Great.
you.
See you next
Bye,
time.
Have a
guys.
great day. Thanks, guys.
Bye.